Deep cut. Something that is recognizable or familiar only to a passionate enthusiast of a specified area. Welcome to the Poor Man's Retro Game Room, and welcome to Sega Genesis Deep Cuts. I'm going to give you 5 of my deep cuts from the Sega Genesis library, and I'd really love to hear from you. Give me a few of your deep cuts from the Sega Genesis library, right? And also tell me if you've played any of these games, if you've heard of them, if you've tried them, if you like them. Give me some good feedback. Let's have a good discussion in the comments section. That's what the fun of making YouTube videos is to me. That's why I enjoy it. That's what's rewarding, is hearing from you guys and having that interaction. So yeah, I encourage you to get in the comments section and let's talk about it. And maybe you'll mention a few games that I haven't heard of and that I would like to check out. You know, and I know that it would be of value to anybody who watches this video. So, all right, so I do have to give credit where credit is due. There is a viewer that comments on a lot of my videos and commented on my community page, and it's going to be the first game that we cover here. I showed a picture of it, said that was what I had picked up today, and Flute Basket commented and said that that is what we call a deep cut, because he had not heard of that game before. So Flute Basket, thank you so much for commenting, first of all. Second of all, giving me the idea for this video. So, you know what? We're going to cover 5 games. The way I do things is it's not scripted. We're just going, man. I'm just going to tell you the 5 games that I pick as my Sega Genesis Deep Cuts. And, you know, not all these games they're not going to be right for everybody. But you might find a few hidden games in there that you'd really like to play or that maybe you weren't aware of. So let's get started with that first game. And this is the one that Flute Basket commented on, and that is Devilish. I just recently picked this up, like I said, and had not played this, completely missed out on it back in the day. And it's a very, very unique game. First of all, I kind of have said that maybe it's a combination between Pinball and Breakout, but it's more Breakout. But it's a really cool game of Breakout. It's set in like the fantasy setting and kind of a horror setting. You start off in a graveyard. There are bosses to fight. You have 2 paddles. There's a story about how you got turned into one of these paddles. But anyway, you don't need a story for this game. Come on, man. You fight all kinds of very cool enemies, and there's parts of the game where it kind of turns into like a maze, and you can flip your top paddle sideways. You can flip it, you know, to either side, and then flip it flat where it's flat, you know. And you can get power-ups. You can turn your ball into like a dragon at times, like a snake, like a burning snake, and it just rips through everything. There's other power-ups that just almost takes everything off the screen, you know, just blows everything up. There is things that will actually make that top flipper invisible and where you can't use it for a while, so you just have to depend on the bottom paddle. Really, really cool and very addictive. You know, it's kind of one of those games that's easy to pick up and easy to play, but hard to master. And yes, the ball does not always go where you think it should go, but I have to kind of remind you, this is a fantasy game. It's not going to have real world, you know, physics, and sometimes it can get a little frustrating. And there are like even levels where you're underwater, and sometimes you will have a little bit hard time seeing the ball. But if you stick with it and you play it long enough, you're going to be fine. It's a lot of fun. You can put up with some of that junk just because it's such a good game. It really is fun. So that is my first deep cut, and that is Devilish. Check it out. All right, the second one is a game that I've covered on this channel before, but I wasn't really happy with the video, and somewhere in the transfer, I don't know, man, it just didn't work. But I do think this is a deep cut, and I think that this game should be recognized more. And I don't know, let me know if you've heard of it. Burning Force. Now, the way I found out about this game actually is from my Evercade. I have the handheld Evercade, and I bought the Namco Collection 1, and Burning Force was on there. It's a sprite scaler, of course. It kind of reminds you of Space Harrier, but it's a little bit different. You start off in like a hover bike, and you don't have the verticality, but once you clear enough levels, you get into a stage where you're actually in like a plane or a spaceship. And that part's really cool. All of it's really fun. But it does kind of that, when you get into the spaceship area, that adds a little bit to the gameplay. There's bonus levels where you have to collect, points and fly through hoops and, do things like that. There's some really cool things in between some of the stages, like when you beat, one of the bosses and you're getting ready to take on another boss. You'll see when you turn into that spaceship, there's kind of like a little cutscene in there, and it kind of tells you what to do and how to kill the next boss. It's pretty cool. Burning Force is a lot of fun. It's really good, fun arcade action, man. It is really like playing an arcade game. A lot of fun. Can't recommend Burning Force enough. I think it's an excellent game, and it's criminally underrated in my opinion. Is it better than Space Harrier? Nah, probably not. But it's pretty darn close. All right. So now this is one of the games that is not going to be for everybody, but I enjoy it, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And I love the box art, man. It's called Death Duel. And it's a very unique game, man. It's it's you're in a duel with either a monster or a robot. It's a first-person perspective, and so you're shooting at this monster or robot that you're in a death duel with, and you have to find kind of the parts of the monster or the robot to destroy it. It's pretty hilarious, man. It's got some comedy in the game. It certainly is not a politically correct game nowadays. It's a little different, but at the end of each duel, if you actually defeat the monster, and you have to kind of manage your ammo, and you have 3 or 4 different types of weapons. There's actually 5, I think, different types of weapons that you can use, and you have to really manage that ammo. If you run out of ammo, you're done, and you haven't killed your opponent, you're done. There's different kinds of weapons, like I said, grenades, rocket launchers. It's just a lot of fun. And then after each duel, you go into a bonus round, and it's kind of a shooting gallery. Now, I wish this was a light gun game, but unfortunately it's not. It's still a lot of fun, man. You can use a controller. It controls really well, actually. And you get through in the shooting gallery, you have to qualify for the next duel. Once you get through with that, then you earn points, and those points you can earn to replenish your ammo, buy different weapons, that type of thing. Go into like a little storefront, and then you get ready for your next duel. It's a lot of fun, very simple. You can just plug this into your Sega Genesis, kind of turn your brain off and just have fun, man. It's one of those types of games, just a chill, very different type of game, but I really, really like it, and that's Death Duel. All right. So my 4th Sega Genesis Deep Cut. Now, you probably heard of this game. A lot of people probably have. It might be the most popular game on this list, but I think a lot of people have either played it for maybe 10 minutes and then given up on it, or just passed it up altogether. The cover art, I don't know, it's not that great. Maybe that's part of it, but it's like Crusader. This is a dungeon crawler. It's an action RPG, kind of in the vein of a Diablo. One of the cool things about it, though, is you can mix and match your magic, and that will give you different spells to cast. You can just use one element of magic, and that'll cast one spell. You add another element or 2, and it changes things up. It might be something that's more effective for one part of the dungeon than the other. Now, the whole game, basically, you have a little town, and you have a graveyard, but most of the game is in the dungeon, and there's several floors to this dungeon, and the dungeon is big. There's puzzle solving. There's monsters, of course, to defeat. There's bosses. You have to find keys to get to the next part of the dungeon. It's all done very well, in my opinion. Now, the one criticism, and I think it's probably an accurate criticism, it's hard to platform in this type of game. It's an isometric pseudo 3D type of game, and sometimes judging where that platform is when you jump to it can be an issue. But the cool thing is you know, when you do miss that jump and you fall in, like, you know, spikes, or you fall in the water or whatever, it doesn't hurt you that bad, so it's not instant death, you know. So, you know, that part you can get over, and you can kind of really learn how to make those jumps, and the more you play the game, the better you'll get at it, of course. And you kind of follow your shadow, you know, that's where you're going to land. So that part of it, yeah, but you can put up with that to play a really good game. Light Crusader is an excellent game. Highly recommend Light Crusader. That is my 4th Sega Genesis Deep Cut. Alright, this is probably my favorite deep cut, and you may have heard of it, especially if you've been, you know, playing the Genesis for a while. You love the Sega Genesis and are aware of its library. I'm sure you heard of Light Crusader. But this one is Ranger X. Now, this is one that I missed out completely back in the day. And you know what? I played it the first couple times I played it, I almost gave up on it because the control scheme is different. Now, if you play Ranger X, I would highly recommend that you use a 6-button controller. It plays very well with the 6-button controller. And it's got that kind of this is going to seem weird, but that double dragon thing where you hit A, you're going to shoot, you know, to your left. You hit C, you're going to shoot to your right. So you kind of got to get used to that. But you start off as a mech, and you have like a motorcycle, like a robot bike, that you can actually jump into that bike, become one with it, and when you do, it kind of changes the way you fire, like your weapon. It turns into like a homing missile. You pop out of it, and you can still control that bike underneath you, and you can still control your mech all at the same time. It's very different, and it's a lot of fun. You will take hits. This is not a game where you can go through and not take a hit. You're going to take damage, and I think maybe that, I don't know, maybe that turns people off nowadays. I don't know. It's an old school game, you know. It does get difficult. And the cool thing, though, is that it does have difficulty levels. Highly recommend starting on easy. That's, you know, how I did it. And that kind of gets you through the game, but you're not going to see the ending, you know, if you beat it on easy. You have to beat it on normal. There are really cool things that happen in the later levels, too, and you even get like a ship that's above you, a big old ship. And so it's a lot of fun. The bosses are huge, sprites are big, music, the soundtrack is excellent, the combat is great, and once you get that control down, it really does open up to you, and it's just a lot of fun. I cannot recommend Ranger X enough. Very, very good game. Takes a while to get used to the control, but it's worth it. So Ranger X, that's my final Sega Genesis Deep Cut. Alright, man, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I want to hear from you. Everybody wants to hear from you. Let's have a discussion in the comments section. What are some of your Sega Genesis Deep Cuts that I didn't mention tonight? If you've heard any of these games, played any of these games, let me know. If you think that a game that I mentioned stinks, let me know, and let me know why. Let's have a good discussion about it, man. Alright, well, thank you so much for clicking on this video, for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.